Say it with me, y'all. Keegan Murray. What a massive night for number 13. A night that can only be summed up by one word. Special. 47 points. Shattering franchise records left and right. And we're celebrating it right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. And over the course of not just my career covering the Sacramento Kings, but my life as a Sacramento Kings fan, attending games in Arco Arena to now the Golden One Center, there have been so many moments and so many nights that will forever exist in my memory, from being there as a kid watching LeBron James in his first ever game to Bogdan Bogdanovic's game winner over the Los Angeles Lakers here in this building, even going back to one of the loudest pops I've ever heard, which was the last time the Kings and the Utah Jazz played here in the Golden One Center. That was Kevin Huerter's eventually what would be a game winner when this place absolutely exploded. There's so many more on that list, and now add tonight's Kings 125-104 list or victory to that list because of a man named Keegan Murray. I just cannot believe what we witnessed tonight. Something that just, you regardless of what team you're rooting for, regardless of what opinions you had of Keegan when Sacramento drafted him a couple of years ago, regardless of any of the circumstances, if you call yourself a basketball fan, if you call yourself a sports fan, there's no other way to soak in what Keegan Murray did tonight other than to just sit back and appreciate what was happening in front of you. I mean, I will never know, and I will never understand what it's like to catch fire the way Keegan did tonight. The way we've seen Steph Curry catch fire at times in his career. Hell, the way we've seen De'Aaron Fox catch fire at times, right? I will never, ever understand that. The closest that I'll ever come to that is hitting like 2 or 3 shots straight in a pickup game at the park with some friends, right? That's the closest I will ever get. And believe me, I'll be celebrating much more hitting 3 straight shots at a pickup game than Keegan Murray ever did tonight in his 47-point performance. But when I tell you that everything this man put up, especially in the third quarter, everybody, all 18,000 people in this arena, including those who were sitting on the Utah Jazz bench, we all not just believed it was going in, we knew it was going in. It was just that kind of a night for Keegan. 47 points, 12 of 15 from three-point range, 8 rebounds, and 2 steals for number 13. You ready for all these franchise records that he broke tonight? Remember, this is the record holder for most made three-pointers as a rookie. Took him a whole season to break and establish that record. Well, tonight, he wasn't taking a whole season to break Kings franchise records. He was rattling off record after record after record tonight. 12 made threes is a franchise record for the Sacramento Kings, beating Buddy Hield, who previously had 11 of them. Keegan broke the franchise record for threes in a single quarter with 7, breaking Harrison Barnes and Omri Caspi's shared record of 6. Keegan Murray broke the franchise record for points in a single quarter, scoring 26 tonight in that third quarter. Mitch Richmond held that record with 25 points in a quarter for the Sacramento Kings. He is the youngest player in NBA history to hit 12 threes in a game. And finally, I believe He hit 11 straight three-pointers tonight, which is an NBA record. Keegan Murray, this night will be filled throughout the history books. And with the way the NBA is going, with how three-point shooting is just more and more important and more at a premium, and there's so many elite, unbelievable shooters in our world today, I don't know how long this record will hold up here in Sacramento. I don't know how long Keegan Murray's rookie three-pointers made record will hold up. No clue. But tonight is truly a night for the NBA and Sacramento Kings history books. And it would not surprise me at all if most of these records are still intact when Keegan is said, when everything is said and done, and Keegan hangs up his sneakers after a very successful career. And the timing of this game for Keegan is just chef's kiss perfection, right? Because what are the stories and what are the reports coming out earlier today before the Kings play the Jazz? According to reports, the Kings are not including Keegan Murray in trade conversations. Keegan Murray is not available. The Kings are not going to trade him. This is stuff that I've been telling you here on Locked On Kings for a long time, and something that the Kings have been extremely consistent with going back to last trade deadline, really going back to when they drafted the kid. Like, they believe Keegan is an all-star caliber player, that he will be an all-star player at some point in time. He hasn't realized that yet, but in his second year here, not only is he breaking franchise records with a three-point night like tonight, he's also tremendously improved as a defender. In addition to how well Keegan was shooting the ball, it's not like he was taking plays off on defense. The Sacramento Kings had a really good defensive night, albeit against a pretty poor and shorthanded Utah Jazz team, but it does not matter. They had a good defensive night, and I'll talk about that later on in the podcast. Keegan Murray is right at the center of that. Statistically, Keegan is the best defender on this Kings team, and it was phenomenal to see him have a night like tonight where the shots were finally falling, and they were falling in abundance, right? But defensively, he was not taking plays off. He didn't need to take plays off on the defensive end or not play with intensity on the defensive end to keep himself fresh to knock down shots, right? And that was a question that I've had and discussions that we've had about Keegan so far this season, is how much is his improvement and his effort and the intensity that he's playing with on the defensive end of the floor, how much is that impacting his shot on offense? Well, tonight there was zero impact. So Keegan is doing it on both sides of the floor, right? And it's no wonder the Sacramento Kings are not making Keegan available, because they believe he's just going to get better and better and better. He's improved tremendously from last season to this season, from when he came into the league to now as a defender. He has these unbelievable shooting nights that he established himself last year and then exploded tenfold with a night like tonight. He's improved with his mid-range game. He's improved with his isolation game, attacking the basket, his step-back mid-range jumper, which is something we know he worked hard on with De'Aaron Fox over the course of the offseason. Like, yeah, Keegan Murray is not available. Now, I want to be clear about something here. If the Kings, the reports out of Sacramento are absolutely going to be, and they should be, that Keegan is untouchable. That's what it should be. I don't know if there are too many players in the league that are truly untouchable. What I know for a fact is that it would take an offer so absurd or so rich that the Sacramento Kings would be willing to let Keegan go, right? So realistically, it's probably not going to happen. Keegan fills a desperate position of need with this team. His skill set as a two-way wing, someone who's good on the defensive end and that can knock down shots and is only improving as an overall three-level scorer on the offensive end, like that is at a premium. That is something that every team needs and wants in abundance, not just from one guy. So Keegan is a hot commodity. If I was a general manager of every other NBA team in the world, I would be calling Monte McNair every day and trying to sweet talk him into trading Keegan to my team. right? And that's not just because I'm the biggest Keegan Murray homer on the planet. And if you don't believe me, go back to before the Kings drafted him and how high I was on him, right? And I had some fun poking fun at some of the draft experts and their reviews and grades of the Keegan Murray draft pick and saying that, they should have taken Jaden Ivey at that spot, or the Kings should have traded down to get Keegan later in the first round, or the Kings, they selected a player who doesn't have any elite skill and it's a safe pick, yada, yada, yada. Like, draft experts are wrong every single year. So I had my fun at them. I'm not spending any more time talking about them than that. But I want to be clear that I do think there are players out there that the Sacramento Kings would trade Keegan Murray for. The thing is, those players are not going to be available. The Kings are not going to get them for Keegan. So, I mean, a night like tonight is perfect timing because here the Kings are saying, yeah, he's not available. They're saying the right thing because that's only going to drive his price up, right? If the Kings were to come out and if the rumor were to come out that, yeah, Keegan Murray's on the trade block, suddenly, even if it's minuscule, his value drops a little bit. He's not as much of an untouchable asset as the Kings would like it to appear to be. Well, tonight, I mean, if I'm the Sacramento Kings, if I'm getting a phone call from the Raptors about OG or Pascal for Keegan, I'm laughing and I'm hanging up the phone. Like, yeah, no duh, the Raptors are going to ask for Keegan. No duh, every team is going to ask for Keegan. And that phone call is going to go the same way. Nah, I'm good. That's what Monty McNair is going to say. And he's either going to hang up the phone or going to say, let's have a realistic conversation here because Keegan ain't going anywhere. What an awesome night for Keegan. The timing is just wonderful. And another element of what makes this night so fun is just Keegan and his personality, right? He's putting up 47 points, and he's just got that same kind of, just melancholy look on his face, just like, yep, ho-hum, just another night. Like, it's just who Keegan is. That's his personality, right? And I have 3 clips to play for you. The first is Keegan. Before the game started, actually, no, early on in the game, the first time out of the game, this was well before Keegan had gotten hot, but I think he'd hit a 3 at this point. There's a timeout, and the Kings players go to the bench, and De'Aaron Fox is up in street clothes, and he's talking to the players, and he comes and he gets right in the face of Keegan. And he's talking to Keegan. He has a big smile on his face. I can't see what Keegan's saying or doing, but has a smile on his face. He's leaning down and talking to Keegan. And I don't know what he said to Keegan in that moment, but whatever he told Keegan, he needs to say it to Keegan before or during every single game from this point. I'm more than willing to give De'Aaron Fox a little bit of credit for the night that Keegan had. Well, Keegan has some things to say back to both De'Aaron and Malik Monk, who still like to give Keegan a little bit of crap. Keegan's 47 points, his career high, is more than Malik's and De'Aaron's. So, some bragging rights for Keegan. He talked about the interactions that he had with De'Aaron Fox and the trash that they were talking on the bench during tonight's historic night.
We're always competitive, me and him, and I just told him I beat his career high. So, but he told me he has more 40-point games, so it's just a back and forth and stuff like that. So, it's just competitive.
The next clip is of Kevin Huerter, who we spoke to after the game, and Kevin had a lot of great things to say about Keegan. My favorite, though, was Kevin explaining why the Kings celebrated Keegan the way that they did in the locker room.
Yeah, there was. We threw a little bit of water on him. I think most of that just to piss him off a little bit. Keegan doesn't love that type of stuff, being the center of attention all the time, but he deserves it. He had a special night. Him and Fox really do. They have a funny relationship. I think he has a funny relationship with Delmas. So I'm not sure what happened there. So pushing the on the bench, it's kind of, again, like a little brother move. But Keegan, he was happy. Everyone's happy for him, trying to get him to smile more, be through it all. He'll come up here and hopefully talk about it. But we're all just very excited for him, making sure that he's enjoying it too.
I love that from Kevin. Of course, they're going to celebrate Keegan's big night because of the amazing numbers that he put up. But for the most part, the Kings celebrated Keegan Murray and dumped water on him because it pisses him off. This Kings team, man, the relationship that they have is just special. Finally, if you haven't heard Kings head coach Mike Brown's impression of Keegan before, he's done it a number of times going back to last season in his famous line, like, I have a little wiggle. Like, Mike's impression of Keegan is just amazing. It makes me laugh every single time. Well, Mike spent some time giving us a little Keegan impression and sharing a funny story from what happened with Keegan and Malik Monk in practice yesterday. Take a listen.
His personality is what makes it even that much more special. I tell you guys, it was yesterday we were in practice, or about to start practice, and we had just got done watching film, and we were about to stretch, and I see Malik and Keegan kind of, having a conversation, and Malik's kind of laughing at him as Keegan's walking away. So I'm like, yo, Malik, what's up? He said, Mike, Keegan said he could post up. I said, what? I said, Keegan could post up? And, Keegan had that little smile on his face, and he's walking away. And I said, Keegan, wait. You say you could post up? He goes, yeah. I said, really? This was the best answer. I said, really? I said, I don't think I've ever seen it. He said, go watch YouTube. And he walked away. So I said, Malik, he told me to go watch YouTube. He said, yeah, you might have some highlights on YouTube. I said, what if I don't have YouTube? He said, all you got to do is Google it. You Google it, you can see Keegan in the post at Iowa. He says he could post up. So I said, okay, I'll see it at some point this year. So with his personality, to see him have this success, oh my gosh, it is a lot of fun. I mean, it warms my heart, and it probably does everybody else too.
I honestly don't know what I enjoy more, listening and watching Mike Brown's Keegan Murray impressions or watching Keegan Murray hit 12 threes in a game. I'll settle for both in one night. That's pretty dang good for me. Quick pause here as I talk a little bit more about the sponsor of tonight's Locked On Kings podcast. You heard me talk about FanDuel at the beginning of the show. Well, right now, as the weather is getting colder and we're getting closer and closer to Christmas time, things are cooling off outside, but things are heating up on FanDuel for all the NFL and NBA betting action. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Find a heavy favorite, put $5 down, win that team wins. Hey, you cash out. Here's 150 bonus bucks. You can use that to bet on Keegan Murray winning most improved player if you want. You can bet on Malik Monk winning Sixth Man of the Year, which I really like those odds right now. You can bet on De'Aaron Fox repeating as Clutch Player of the Year. You can bet on the Sacramento Kings winning the whole damn NBA championship. And if they keep shooting like they have been over these last few games, they very well might. You can bet on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now is the perfect time to do so. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, kick off the NFL season, and tip off the NBA season, with FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So naturally, the amazing night that Keegan had is going to be the center of attention. And obviously, we just spent the first half or however much of the show talking about Keegan. But there's a lot about tonight that Keegan's performance will naturally overshadow, and I'm not going to let that happen here. There's things about tonight's game that deserve to be put into the spotlight a little bit, right? And Keegan Murray's not going to be one to take the spotlight on himself. I'm sure he'd rather turn the attention to some of these things too. So I'm going to talk about them. Now, Keegan's involved in this first one, right? De'Aaron Fox is out, does not play in tonight's game. He's dealing with that right shoulder injury that he suffered during the Oklahoma City Thunder game earlier this week. So De'Aaron Fox does not play. The Kings have the other two players of their big three, Keegan Murray, of course, with his unbelievable 47 points, and then Domantas Sabonis with 20 points, 9 of 10 shooting from the field, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals. The other two of the Sacramento big three, and maybe you could make it a big four if you want to include Malik Monk in that, but regardless, the other two guys step up in a major way with their star out. Look, I know Keegan scored 47 points tonight. We shouldn't expect that on a very regular basis. Hopefully he's able to do it again or even break it at some point in his career. That would be pretty awesome, right? But if we're being honest, like on most nights, you're not going to make up, one guy is not going to make up the 30 points per game that De'Aaron Fox is averaging. But this is what great teams do. If you're missing a star, if you're missing a top guy, your other main guys step up. They're going to need help. And the Kings got help from some other players too. We'll get to that in just a second. But you need your other main guys to take control. This is something that we didn't necessarily see them do as much as we would like to have seen them do, especially with Domantas Sabonis, right? When Fox was out with his ankle injury earlier on in the season. Well, Keegan, of course, was phenomenal. But Domas set the tone for the Kings. The first bucket of the game, if I'm not mistaken, was off of a Domantas Sabonis steal and coast-to-coast layup. And then Domas' second basket of the game. He got a defensive rebound, ran coast to coast again, and finished at the rim. Domantas Sabonis put on a clinic in the paint tonight. An absolute clinic. Kelly Olynyk couldn't do anything about it. Walker Kessler couldn't do anything about it. There was nobody on the Utah Jazz that could do anything to stop Domantas Sabonis. But here we are again. It's exactly what I talked about after the Oklahoma City Thunder win. Domantas Sabonis' best nights, he puts up these massive stat lines on nights where the shine is going to other players. This is just who the man is, right? If the rest of the team is succeeding, if other guys are shining, don't be surprised at all when you look at Domantas Sabonis' stat line and you see great numbers. This is just what he does. And I will never, ever stop pointing that out because some people just miss it. Some people are going to look at the box score of tonight's game, see the 47 points for Keegan Murray, be amazed by that, and stop there and go, the Kings won this game because Keegan Murray went off. And to some extent, they're right. But the Kings also won this game because Domantas Sabonis set the tone and dominated. The Kings also won this game because of Malik Monk and Harrison Barnes. The Kings won this game because of Keon Ellis, too. I'm going to get to him in a second. But Domantas Sabonis and Keegan Murray coming in with their star, their superstar, MVP candidate out, come in, establish themselves, take control of this game, and carry this Kings team to a win. That is what great teams do when they're missing a star player. On top of that, you know what's really going to be overshadowed tonight? I haven't heard anybody talk about it or say or point it out or nothing. The Kings held the Utah Jazz to 104 points. Again, I know it's the Utah Jazz. It's not the Boston Celtics or not some of the greatest offensive teams in the league, and the Utah Jazz are missing a fair few amount of players. But regardless, look, anytime the Sacramento Kings can hold any team to 104 points, it could be the Detroit Pistons, could be the San Antonio Spurs, does not freaking matter. The worst team you could possibly label and find in the NBA, if the Kings can hold that team in the modern NBA to 104 points, it's worth celebrating. And on top of that, only 23 points for the Jazz in the first quarter. Only 27 points for the Jazz in the second quarter. 26 points in the third quarter. 28 points in the fourth quarter. Holding a team to under 30 points in all four quarters? We should be throwing a parade through the streets of Sacramento for that alone, not just Keegan Murray's massive performance. The defense for Sacramento tonight is going to be overshadowed and has been overshadowed by Keegan's big three-point shooting night. But I'm pointing it out here on Locked On Kings, and I want to make sure you're aware of it at the very least. I mentioned Keon Ellis. Coming off of his 17-point career-high performance where I called the Thunder game, even though De'Aaron Fox scored 41 in that game, I called the Thunder game the Keon Ellis game, right? It was a breakout party for Keon, 17 points. He had like 5 3-pointers or something like that. It was an awesome night to watch Keon have just shine. And here he is getting the start at point guard with De'Aaron Fox out. This is not the first time this season that Keon has started in place of De'Aaron. Remember, Keon replaced Davion Mitchell as the backup starter for Fox, and that's when the Kings went on that 6-game win streak, or started that 6-game win streak earlier on this season. Feels like a long time ago, doesn't it? Well, Keon tonight, following up his 17-point performance, he has 2 points. Okay. But 7 assists, 1 steal. Like, that 7 assists to me is massive. Keon Ellis ran this team very, very well. Stepped into a tough position with Fox being out. Yes, Domas and Keegan and Malik and Harrison Barnes and all those other guys picked up with the scoring absence, but Keon ran the offense. And some of his dimes were fantastic tonight. He had a really, really good job distributing the ball, finding the open man, making the right decision, which is difficult not just for a backup point guard to do. That's difficult for a backup two-way guard to do. Keon did that tonight, plus his defense was fantastic. He was going at Colin Sexton the entire night, even to a point where the two of them were jawing at each other and picked up double techs. Now, Keon Ellis would actually be tossed from this game during the fourth quarter while the Jazz were making a mini comeback, basically cutting a 30-point Kings lead down to 20 in the fourth quarter. Keon was upset after a non-foul call and turned to the ref, said something. The ref said, I'm not taking this from a two-way player, teed him up and threw him out of the game, which kind of sucks. But that's not what we're going to know, or that's not what Keon Ellis' game is going to be remembered as, him getting tossed, because his assists tonight and his defense were fantastic. And then a couple honorable mentions. I mentioned them already. Malik Monk tonight, 18 points, 8 assists off the bench. I'll say it again. There is no Sixth Man of the Year candidate that is doing what Malik Monk is doing. Coming in, a scoring threat, and on top of that, here's minimum 16 points, but it's going to be more than that because I'm sure some of these assists were to three-pointers. In fact, I know one of them was to a Keegan Murray 3 in the first quarter, just this nasty sling pass that he had to Keegan in the other wing, and Keegan knocked down. I think that might have been his first 3 of the night. Either way, this is a minimum 16 points on top of the 18 points that Malik scored that Malik was directly responsible for. There is no other Sixth Man doing what Malik Monk does. The man should be at the top of the Sixth Man of the Year race. Don't just give it to the guy that scores the most points off the bench. Pay further attention than that. The voters know basketball better than that. Don't just give it to scoring. Because Malik is doing that. He's scoring. He's shooting 4 or something like that % on catch and shoot threes right now. He's just ridiculous. And on top of that, he's distributing the hell out of the ball. And then we got to talk about Harrison Barnes, right? We're more critical of Barnes on this channel and on Locked On Kings than we are positive. A night like tonight, when Keegan's going off, it's going to be overshadowed a little bit. But 16 points, 6 of 11 from the field, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. I'll tell you, if this is what you can get on a semi-regular basis from Harrison Barnes, you're in phenomenal shape. So I love this performance from Harrison tonight. He hit some big threes and had some great moments as well. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by Dave. Look, managing your finances can be extremely intimidating, right? That's why you need Dave. Dave can make managing your money so much easier with an interest-free extra cash advance, fee-free goal tracking, and easy ways to find a side hustle that help you make more money. Dave is the banking app that's leveling the financial playing field. When you download Dave, you could get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less with no credit check and no late fees. It's part of Dave's extra cash account. Advance the money that you need with no interest and then settle up later. Extra cash gives you more money to buy groceries, fill your tank, finally get your car repaired, or catch up on your bills without having to wait for your next paycheck, or hey, a little extra cash to handle all that Christmas shopping. That's not too bad too right now. You can even build credit when you settle on time. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to make their finances easier. So if you're in a pinch, get the help you need by downloading Dave. Download Dave today at dave.com/lockedonnba. That's dave.com/lockedonnba. You can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. Download the Dave app now or go to dave.com/lockedonnba for terms and conditions. Go to dave.com/legal. Eligibility criteria and instant transfer fees apply. Banking services provided by Evolve, member FDIC. So with the win tonight, the Sacramento Kings are now 15-9 on the season. And they were here already when they came into tonight. But let's talk about this really quick. The Kings are where they belong. They're where the banner above me says that they belong, which is the best team in the Pacific Division, which is the best division in NBA basketball. It is. The Golden State Warriors are the worst team right now. They're the only team under 500, I believe, and we know the Warriors they're struggling right now, and the dynasty is falling apart as we know it. But the Warriors are still the Warriors, right? And the Kings are at the top of the division again. Now, you can mock division banners all you want. I don't necessarily blame you, right? I'd like for the Kings to get a conference championship banner or, hell, an NBA Finals banner in this building and maybe even take down the Pacific Division banner so we can put that in the past, right? But still, Pacific Division champions, the Kings are defending that title, and here they are early in the season dealing with injuries, missing De'Aaron Fox tonight. And they're right back where they belong, where they're supposed to be at the top of that division. The Kings are shooting lights out from three-point range at home right now. And I wanted to make sure I pointed this out before we wrapped up. Over the last 3 home games, now it's not the 3 straight games, because remember on Tuesday, they had the second night of a back-to-back where they got their ass kicked by the LA Clippers again. But on Monday, the Brooklyn Nets game where they broke the franchise record for threes in a game, and then the Thunder game, and now tonight. The Kings are shooting 65 of 135. That's 48% from three-point range. 65 made threes in 3 games, y'all. That's absurd. That is absurd. And the Kings had 21 made threes tonight, I believe. They're 10-0. This is a stat that comes from Will Z Stats, who does amazing work for ESPN 1320 Radio. Will Z, he's a must-follow on social media because he just brings these awesome numbers out, and I steal them all the time, so thank you, Will. The Kings this season are 10-0 when they shoot 36% from three-point range or higher. Now, I've had a lot of people tell me and talk to me and say, hey, Matt, I feel like sometimes the Kings are a little live or die by the three-point shot. I hear you. I understand that completely. Eye test is important here because there have been games, for sure this season, 100%, there have been games where the Kings are much too reliant on three-point shot. These last 3 games, granted, I guess it's probably easier to say this when the Kings are shooting 48% as a team from deep, but these last 3 games, it hasn't felt like the Kings are just chucking up threes for the sake of chucking threes. Like, that is what the defense is giving them, and that is what the offense is creating through the paint touches and sprays that is a pillar of Mike Brown's offense. So the Kings are getting the looks that they want to get. They're not just settling and chucking, which they've done before this season. But when the Kings are shooting 36% or better from three-point range, I'm not going to say every single time because I haven't broken it all down, but typically when the Kings are shooting that well from three-point range, it's when they're touching the paint, they're spraying the ball, they're moving it around the horn, and typically they're shooting in the high 30s to low 40s in terms of three-point attempts in a game compared to nights where they've shot really poorly from deep, but they're in the mid to high 40s, right? And I know we've talked about that before so far this season, but like that was a big thing if you go back to the playoffs, right? The Kings' defense against the Golden State Warriors was awesome in the playoffs, and it showed all of us that the Kings are capable of playing defense at that high of a level. That was awesome. But the Kings shot horribly from three-point range during that entire playoff series. Credit to the Warriors and their defense. They were clearly having an effect on the Kings too. I'm not saying the Kings are going to shoot this well from three-point range throughout a course of a playoff series. If they do, they're unstoppable, or they're damn near unstoppable. But if the Kings' three-point shooting is a little bit better than it was during the playoffs, Kings are winning that series. And I'm not just talking about against the Warriors. I'm just saying period. Like if the Kings roll the same lineup into the playoffs this year, they shoot better from three-point range, assuming everybody is able to stay healthy, like the Kings are, I think, winning a playoff series and making it maybe to 2. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. But that's where I think, like, as much as improving the defense is important, and it absolutely is, and Mike Brown and his team are rightfully focusing on it, and they're trying to make progress, and so far they have made progress, right? And they had a great defensive game tonight. Your identity is your offense. When you are scoring at a rate like this, when you're shooting at a rate like this, there's almost nothing a team can do about it. That is where the Kings are at their best. That was the point I wanted to make about that. I want to hear your thoughts now. I know you have things to say about Keegan Murray's night. I know you want to gush about number 13 or you want to celebrate or whatever you want to talk about. Let's freaking talk about it. Get involved in the conversation. You can hit me up on Twitter at MattGeorgeSack. You can email me mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. I know comment section on YouTube, you're already going crazy right now. Keep that up. Let's have some fun talking about Keegan Murray's big night. Let's fill our Sunday because on Monday, the Kings are back here in this building, Game 3 of this 6-game homestand against the Washington Wizards. Not the most exciting of opponents. We don't know if De'Aaron Fox will be back or not. We'll have to wait and see. But if you're coming to that game, also let me know. I'd love to see you. Love to say hi to you here inside the Golden One Center and chat with you in person. Shout out to all the great people that I met and talked to at tonight's game as well. You guys are fantastic. I appreciate your support so much. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.